My name's Les Binet and I'm the Head of Effectiveness at Adam Eve DDB. I've written quite a lot of stuff on how advertising works and in particular the role of emotions in making advertising effective. And so I'm very interested in any form of research that allows us to get below the radar of consciousness and understand how people are reacting to advertising at an emotional level. We're very interested in the role of music in all this. We do know that music is a very important component of what makes TV advertising effective. Some of the research we've done so far suggests that having really good music on an ad can increase the effectiveness in as much as sort of 20 to 30%. Music can do things to people emotionally without having to actually involve any kind of rational messaging. Hollywood have known this for a very long time. And I suppose the other reason why music's a useful tool for us is Daniel Müllensiefen, our partner here at Goldsmiths, is himself a musicologist, a musician, and an expert in the psychology of music. So putting all that together, looking at the role of music in advertising is a very good way for us to interrogate how people respond to advertising emotionally and how that affects their behaviour.
So neuromarketing is a new branch in market research as well as in the advertising science that's been around for about 10-15 years, but it hasn't really picked up until very recently. And advertising research has been dominated by explicit testing, by questionnaires and surveys. The problem with these is that people not always say what they think, and they don't always think what they feel. And where neuromarketing is getting into is this idea that people feel something and that their feeling, somatic responses will influence their purchase behavior and their perception of brands ultimately.
In the study we're going to examine the psychophysiological responses to music in TV ads, because we're interested in the emotional responses to music in relation to visual stimuli. And we want to figure out what the galvanic skin response and heart rate can tell us about that.
And we don't want to ask people, or in addition to asking people how they feel, we want to measure their response from their autonomic nervous system. So we want to get under their skin, literally speaking, to see what they feel, to measure what they feel, to assess their emotions they might not even be conscious of themselves.
One of the things that comes out of a lot of the research we've been doing over the last sort of 5 to 7 years is that emotion plays a very big part in what makes advertising effective. And it's this kind of emotional power of advertising is something which is not always well picked up by conventional forms of advertising research. The usual way that you test advertising is to ask people questions, using a paper questionnaire. That sort of stuff doesn't really pick up emotional effects terribly well. So we're very interested in new forms of research that directly try to measure people's emotional responses, like the galvanic skin response stuff that Sensum are doing.
We actually don't know yet what the study is going to bring us, but what we are going to expect is to see a difference in the responses of people to advertisements with and without music, and to maybe see the impact of music on people's emotions and maybe also on their consumer behavior.
The second objective is then to find a signature of effective ads. So we'll use ads that have performed well in the market, that increased sales and revenues, as well as ones that might be of equal quality, but for some reason weren't as impactful in the market. And we want to see whether there's any signature in the galvanic skin response as well as heart rate data to identify what makes a difference. And we know that emotions play a huge role in the processing of advertising.
In this experiment, what we're going to be doing is looking at the role of music, the role of emotion in advertising and how those things interact with one another, and whether changing the music has a change on the emotional tempo and how that actually affects people's emotional responses. So I think this is going to be a very interesting way of understanding how emotion keys into the actual effectiveness of an ad and what makes it sell.